I'm Stephen Hohenrieder. I'm currently working with a vertically integrated beef company called Prather Ranch. It's based here in California. I appreciate being part of these discussions. I'm participating in the protein panel, and I find that I'm learning a lot as I engage in discussions down in the valley, because for many people the definition of AgTech is fairly broad. So when you think about building fertility naturally on the land, there's a huge technological element to it, and a lot of the innovations that we're seeing in these companies today are enabling small to mid-sized producers to do some of the things that the larger companies have been doing for years, or possibly haven't. And I happen to have a belief that the relationship between the consumer and their food is going through a very structural change that in some ways looks more like it did before industrialization than after. And if you look to the wine industry as a proxy for where this may go, once the infrastructure of custom crush was developed in the wine industry, it enabled an explosion of small to mid-sized companies to ramp up. And we went from 500 wineries in the United States in the 1960s to over 10,000 today. And when I look at a similar trajectory in the relationship between the consumer and their food more broadly, and we have other examples of this, craft beer, craft spirits, charcuterie, cheeses, and other products, things that the consumer valued before an industrialized food system developed shifted to valuing convenience and packaging and processing and innovation. And I happen to believe that that relationship with food has come full circle now to where you have a millennial generation that has lived with that their whole life. It's not novel in the way that it was for the pre-baby boomers, for the Gen Xers, and for the people who had come before us. They've lived with it their whole life, and so they're looking for authenticity, and they're looking for a connection back to the source of their food. And I think there's a lot of opportunity in technology to validate that value chain. Just yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article talking about Starbucks and Whole Foods starting to source chicken that is grown more slowly. They're not doing that because they want to. They're doing that because the consumer is demanding it, and the consumer wants the attributes of those chickens that are grown more slowly. You're seeing the Chipotles of the world define fresh fast food with simple, fresh ingredients. But in some ways, they or others are causing the McDonald's of the world to buy antibiotic-free chicken. So you see a shift, in my opinion, in the consumer that's creating a very different dynamic in agriculture. And the existing food system isn't going to do that. But if we look back to the wine industry, I think the equivalent of a custom crush infrastructure, where people are investing in services to produce these things for other people and enable small and mid-sized producers, that you'll have more small and mid-sized producers branding, adding value, and vertically integrating their businesses, which means you'll see more brands in the market, and it'll enable farmers to capture more of the retail margin. It's also good for the land, because we've seen over time that the smaller producers are driving sustainability practices, and it's great for the big guys. If you look to the wine industry, it's the small brands that other people have incubated and grown to scale that the Constellations or the Mondavis of the world acquire in order to stay relevant in the market. And so I think it actually ends up working out well for the entire ecosystem of these industries, and I look forward to seeing it play out.